Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reacts, where today we have ourselves some tracks off of the album titled The Rebellion, the Deluxe edition from Hobokin. If we switch over to here, we are returning to The Rebellion. We have previously reviewed 15 songs off of this, I think on the initial version of it, the first version. Now we have another 10 tracks, including a cover, a rendition of a song, a cover from a group called the Zolas, which we'll get into in 21. But we're going to listen through each of these new additional 10 tracks from start to finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Starting with Brat Behavior. Let's go. What will we hear?
I'm a coming coin, a flip. I give you two sides. One's faced with grace while the other just can't do right. Sweet and sour sugar rush into your view. I'm pure in the day, but I'm tainted.
Or slap back today, should I say?
The kiss of death when love is grim. Vision me Elvis, you can't help from falling in. If it's too much, give you one more talisman. I'll be poisoning your crook, grant you death and let you live. Like the fates, I'm pulling on your strings. Cross me again, I'll cut the whole damn seam. Everything is never as it seems. The world has gone to shame. All the same, making false claims. And baby, yeah, we're flawed like you. Disappointing parents with our jar taboos. It's quite simple, we're erratic. Getting on our kicks just for being problematic. Cinephile for a lover's brush. John and Jane gave us our first rush. More in exact, I'll teach you first. To the max, I'm not slowing down, eat my dirt. This is brat behavior. Young and well, we'll see you later. We display that rat behavior, juxtaposed with saints and saviors. This is brat behavior, cheeky fun, well poised and tailored. Display that snake behavior, Eden's charms, your lucky player.
Satisfying to get rid of the low end here.
Brat behavior. Brat behavior. Continual bois, Sivon blanc. Lies confined avec Dionysus. Surprises, conversing with the gods. Mark your bet, enchant your odds. Tangle with the rodents, it's snakes and roses. Give me proses in full devotion. Languishing in the shadow night. Full bloom rose as purest light. Give me a judge position. Gavel into submission. So what's your proposition? Me and you in what position? Won't tattle to the opposition. I'll just keep you my sole discretion. Just lean in to the kiss. Poison, blessed or chivalrous. With me you'd have it made. Trust me, drink the Kool-Aid. Cause this is brat behavior. Brat behavior. This is brat behavior. Caution tales, folklore, erasure. Display that snake behavior. By bad apples, meet your maker. Brat behavior.
The sound design is pretty intriguing with this one.
Brat behavior.
Yeah, so it's a fantastic reintroduction to this album, The Rebellion. I didn't actually get the art up on the screen before. Let's just get that. Maybe I did actually, maybe I'm just tripping, but we got it at least once or twice now. So Brat Behavior, track number 16 off of the Deluxe Edition, is an interesting one because I think it's discussing the feeling of sort of giving into the rebellion and just acting it's like, you know, you're young and impulsive and just kind of giving in to the temptation, I suppose, to an extent. I'm taking those risks, you know, drinking the Kool-Aid, quote unquote, you know, like someone telling you got it made when you're with them. You know, it's whether you'll believe it or not, but it's an interesting thing to talk about. It's an interesting seg into a new part. One of the things I think was done well here is not just the vocal technique where we're very comfortable in a head and chest voice here. We've got this interesting sort of like flow with the rapping where we go between like our sort of normal voice and then sort of filtered voice to almost like have a call and response or a conversation between two without needing to do more than one person's take. And we had like production going backwards and forwards, like it just, there's really cool things happening to accentuate and elevate and offer a lot of diversity in terms of how the vocals are experienced by the listener here. We are not taking for granted the fact that if we have a story, it will be enough. We are also trying to do more to kind of make it especially impactful and stand out. There was also this really interesting harmonic minor feel to the ba-ba-ba-boom-boom-boom. There's kind of exotic sort of the feeling. There's like a temptation to it. It's sort of kind of risque sounding. It's more nuanced than a natural minor. I think that kind of exotic feel alongside the temptation that Brat behaving, kind of giving into it, kind of elicits a feeling. Like they sound like they match tonally what the harmonica like minor is used for. I think it's a harmonic, if I'm not mistaken. I think also how authoritative the low end with the sub bass is, especially when it comes in, there's like that kind of distorted, kind of like dissonant feel to the riser at the end there, where things get kind of unwieldy, and you just don't know where you're going to. So it's almost like you've drunk the Kool-Aid, and then you're in for another world of hurt or something, or maybe even it's going to be like a kind of a wild adventure. It's just little things in terms of both the scale choices as well as the information of certain elements, such as the sub bass offering a nice ground bit, also a bit of force there, with it not being there and allowing things to float, but also the use of rises and other instruments within the piece to sort of create more of almost a very sort of dramatic theatrical feel that makes it more than just a song. Okay, again, it kind of works well as both an introduction to the extended parts of this to go further into a new half of it. And finally, I think it's a studio production. Like, we're very clearly trying to make this an interesting experience in terms of the post. Like, we've got it, you can hear everything clearly in the mix. Things are well recorded, the vocals, a lot of the bass takes, the drums, any of the sort of like plucked elements and any other sort of like folk or sort of Foley elements. But it's also the way they kind of go back and forth, the stereo field, the vocals are panned from left to right in terms of automation there. There's dynamic range to it. Things are not the same resonance in the frequency spectrum the entire time. Sometimes they get rid of the lows just to allow things to float a little bit. And it's just nice to know without pumping. But there's been a lot of, especially the riser at the end, with just the way that how organic it is, the way it's designed and how unpredictable that rise is there. It's not easy stuff to do, but we're pulling it off. It's really, really positive. We've got track 17 now, Monopoly with Hobokin and Moolaun. And vocal chops. Nice.
I want a man and I hope his name is Benjamin. Treat me right, buys me ice out all my friends. Can buy the night, spark it up a little bark and bite. Can't back down from the fight, keep my corset tight.
I want the yens, set the 10 straight across the bins. From boys and men, hand in hand, my focus spin. On the cash, call me Dash, you see my flash. A lot of lights and beaming bright, it's a holy sight. I'm spending cash like it's Christmas. You know if it's gold, I'ma get it. Can't help to stop when I'm winning. Yeah, I broke the mold, I'm living.
Yo, I'm stacking cash to the ceiling. You know I paid the bill, no renting. Can't help a hoe, that's bitchin'. Cause I planted seeds you're stealing.
Cristalli on me, this shit I get for free. Designer only, you know I'm picky G.
The motto of me, because I live for green. It's ghastly, partially, but money comes first, baby.
I want some pound bags of browns, no we keep it down. Euros, checks, I'm overseas just to spend my racks. I need a real Brazilian still, I can foot the bill. Down to kill, keep it ill, you like the trill?
I want the pearls, a little twirl, call a Barbie girl. And the king, master dreams, about 3 diamond rings. Down champagne, go insane, make you lose your brain. See my ring, leave a stain, shit you can't contain.
I'm spending cash like it's Christmas.
Great chemistry between these two.
I'ma get it, can't help to stop when I'm winning. Yeah, I broke the mold, I'm living.
Yo, I'm stacking cash to the ceiling. You know I paid the bill, no renting. Can't help a hoe, that's bitchin'. Cause I planted seeds you're stealing.
No sign, can't stop, it's overweight. It's packed, sit down to my estate. You can't come near, stay at the gate. 3-figure meal deal left on my plate.
Show stop, on top, a start is made. I took command, check my brigade. You don't want smoke, stay in your lane. I pinned y'all down, I got big brain.
Everybody really quit to talk shit, but I came dressed in all black to your function. Y'all been breaking necks, turning heads when I walked in, snatched the mic. Wait, am I interrupting?
Everybody really quick to jump in. Said fuck your crew and your squad, I'm the boss bitch. Send reservations, I'm not waiting on your mosh pit. Bottom fetus, I'll send you crumbs from the surface.
Cristalli on me, this shit I get for free.
There's very little time to really pause.
You know I'm picky, G.
The motto of me, because I live for green. It's ghastly, partially, but money comes first, baby.
Oh. Are those heavily filtered keys on the right, or like some sort of like bells or something like that? The brass stabs are fantastic. Yeah, cool. No, that's really nice. You got the cash register at the end. No, it makes a lot of sense. So track 17, Monopoly, seems to me about both Hobokin and Moolaun having a conversation, talking about the gains they're making, the money they're stacking, the success that they're experiencing in their lives and their music. And basically, it's just like Monopoly, just keep going around doing the loop, collecting properties, you know, and making bank. That's effectively what the track is about. It's an interesting sort of follow-on from Brat behavior, where maybe the Brat behavior we're now showing is that's allowing us to succeed. You know, I think there's a nugget of truth to that. I think that if you are authentic to yourself and you try not to be too sort of like polished or sterilized, I think you can find ways to make money for sure. Some of the most controversial people are quite wealthy. So in terms of things that I appreciate, I think one thing that's worth noting is just the chemistry between Hobokin and Moolaun. They both rap well, and they had a similar approach with the expression of how they rapped and sort of put things forward, but they took turns. They would go between each other, and it allowed for like a really nice, easy way of segmenting, but also making a song more interesting, because you never got too used to one vocal texture to go from backwards to forwards. And it just worked really neatly in that front. It helped that the words came out clearly and that they were clearly very sort of like comfortable on the microphone. There was a sense of polish and precision to it. It was also kind of like cool, calm, and calculated. It was like a very, you know, like I don't think I'd be able to find fault with the way that they handled themselves. I think that with the kind of feel they were going for made a lot of sense. I think also the brass stabs there alongside the drums and the groove of the kit with the various 8 and 16 note patterns there, and the way that there was rhythmic unison between certain elements was also really positive. It's cool to have the minor be so authoritative, and the mix there rumbled with the 808s and the low end of the basses, and the drums being nice and punchy there. And even when things were filtered and there was a bit more distortion and stuff like that, it still was just really kind of powerful sounding. And it makes sense when they're discussing how they're becoming successful. I can kind of hear what the instrument's trying to communicate and how it connects to what they're doing, and that's really important. I just think it's little things as well, like just as a final note, like the cash register at the end. I thought that was really neat. Just having a ka-ching at the end as they discuss themselves making more and more money. It's just very simple ideas like that can elevate a piece and make it more than just a song there. It's very easy for a listener to go, oh, I understand that, that's cool. And at 3 minutes 15, with the various verses and choruses that they had and how smooth it was as a performance, you almost feel sort of overwhelmed by it. And that little cha-ching at the end kind of snaps you out of it, and you're ready for the next track. So overall, just a really great teamwork here. Because I think we've got another collaboration here with Hobokin and Øverdrive, number 18, When the World Ends. When the World Ends. Oh, that was going to be a bit of a ballsy move there. I was expecting it to go bum, ba bum, bum, like that really common chord progression that they have. But it's nice to hold on to that last chord. Oh, I'm just going to go back and we can enjoy that without me interrupting it.
I see things breeding out of hate. The world keeps turning, it's out of place. And who is ruling the human race? I think they've brewed a bunch of human waste. 'Cause the walls burn down wearing coats of ash. We breathe in, then
just a very organic performance. Very somber feel with the guitars and the kind of euphoric pads.
Took a drive to that parking lot. Last night I had to clear my head where the echoes die things down. In a place of transition. Lately I've been off the horse. Somehow didn't notice it till I tasted mud on my legs. When I looked up, seen a place desolate.
Transition to the claps. Those little plucks near the end where they're kind of scraped are really interesting. Just a moment. So that was When the World Ends, track number 18 from Hobokin and Overdrive. Now, I think that this song is more about the state of our world and understanding the predicament that we're in and realizing maybe when it's too late. It's just how vulnerable we're asking a lot of big questions about, you know, as part of the rebellion, who are we really aiming it at? You know? Are we fighting between ourselves, or is there a higher power involved with it? You know, like whichever direction you're going. You know, we say, you know, give me something to believe. So it's just also kind of figuring that out as well. I think this is good subject matter that people will sort of like relate to and sort of like want to talk about. I'm going to sort of more talk about the relativity there maybe later on. But in terms of things that were done well here, I feel like going for a more earnest kind of like rocky kind of atmosphere, ambient rock feel was a smart choice here. You know, it didn't get super heavy at any point. There was some like kind of like crispy guitars, but a lot of it was more sort of like centered around the kind of like, again, the crispy guitar takes with the really kind of beautiful synth pads there that offered a sense of wonder and curiosity with them, as well as the acoustic drums, which I think were an interesting take. But just the way that we sung, and we had a bit of vocal fry occasionally, and I think that Hobokin had a verse, and then Overdrive did too. They had their own sides of the story put forward. I just think it was sensible, and they matched texturally and tonally with what was going on with the instrumental layers. But I think, to be fair, part of that also comes down to knowing exactly what we need to accomplish with the guitars. I think initially I was unsure of what the chord progression was going to be, and having that kind of like bluesy-ish kind of feel to the hammer-ons pull-offs before the next loop was just a smart move there. It invokes a sense of the feeling that it's less beautiful, pretty than it sounds. Like there's a bit more kind of like going on that's a bit kind of more dangerous, I suppose. Like it's a very pleasant sounding track, and you've got the claps, and it has some sort of poppy leanings and stuff like that, but there's also a bit of darkness in the lyrics that isn't overshadowed and never becomes generic. I just feel like having the guitar, bass, and drums, played the way they are, made it a lot more authentic. I could hear that there are actual recorded guitar takes, and they weren't sort of like phoned in. They weren't like that someone actually had to play those guitar takes. And I know it's kind of maybe a boomer take on my part, because I grew up in a time where like people exclusively. I started doing music in the mid 2000s, but like, and a lot of the stuff was still prime, especially within the genres. But like using anything apart from a guitarist for guitar takes was just a no-no. But just hearing them sort of like strum those guitars and work out those riffs was fantastic. And you can just kind of imagine someone with a guitar in like a wasteland kind of crying out for help, but it's still kind of gorgeous with its like chord progressions and harmonies and stuff. So it does balance itself out really neatly. So ultimately very, very happy with this one. I think the actual production quality of the guitars and drums as well is fantastic, with the way they niche with those pads, which wouldn't necessarily usually go together, but it's just the way we create this universe within a piece, with the way we kind of like compress and glue things and space things out within the stereo field and frequency spectrum. It's a talent to be able to get them to work when they're quite different, but we're managing to accomplish that here. We had like a funky bass line at the end as well there. It's just really neat. I like the feel and flow of this track. It's kind of, it's a journey, but I dig it. Got 19, track number 19, New Gatsby.
I've never seen anything like it. The talent, the vision, the gorgeous execution. Like Gatsby?
He's gotta be.
I can't believe it. Let me see.
The penthouse?
The green suede. The golden touch of human swing.
I've gotta know. What's his name?
Or Hobokin, give or take.
Just call him the new Gatsby.
Oh, there's the green that I'd love to change.
New Gatsby, I'm coming through. Et de Cologne can never kneel. Repeat the history of climbing up from racks rich. Chopped off the daisies, push them dead and play my wrist. Pie on my table, I always eat, collect my bread. Feed you dead like fodder, like your father. Always coming back to haunt ya. I'm unbothered, your spirit's unsolved, unhonored. Poltergeist to living dead, cause the disturbance to the stead. I'll tell you what I'll do instead. Exorcist, the stake is lead. I'm a ghostbuster, toe stomper. Don't look back after I brushed ya. So damn slick, I shame my stubble. Fee-fi-fo, I never fumble. You can't afford to look like this. I'm monumental, get the gist. Oh, money and fake prestige. You try so hard and still you miss. Cause prophets wrote this telling stone. I poured the sword, young matador. Me, I wear my
really trippy hi-hats. The clickiness of them and panning of them.
Doppelgangers, wannabes, and copycats that mimic me. All across the 7 seas, you'll never find someone like me. New Gatsby can't surpass me. Rico screaming out that nasty. You probably wondered if you could take a sip of my brandy. So damn fancy, babe, I fancy you. You get me dancing so dirty, you got me prancing. Then I'm dashing through my mansion. I be lapping up, cut that ribbon entry, make you open up. Spray champagne, we celebrate. You know we just can't get enough. My bird's eye view help me shine my diamond. Now I'm out the rough. Now I call my femme fatale. Lastly, make them jive and bump. Such a timeless beauty, like she was 2D wrapped in silk and embellished rubies. Spotlight points her out like she stepped out the film. She's the movie. Proportions unreal, looks like she paid for it. It's such a doozy, you know the girl so bad. She say it's not my fault, just how they drew me. Stepping in the frame with the new just.
See, like, it's got such a smoothness to it, with the consistency of the vocal flow, that with all due respect, sometimes I sort of like zone out a little bit. It's kind of like a weird thing, because it's not a disservice or a criticism. It actually means I'm comfortable and enjoying listening to it. But like, as I kind of wonder, I realize, is there, as a reviewer, you can't really do that,
But like her name was Betty, and I Betty White Nights so the rose is welting. Bell little Reedy with a beat so hefty. Smell your fake cologne and it made us sick. You're just not a dozen, you're not a pick. Hear him lining up in a flash so quick. Every time Dick her, she's over it. Then there's Gatsby, just like candy. She's addicted to this man. I'm the catnip, she's Duchess Madly. I'm the Freddy to her Daphne. I can trap you in a frenzy. When I flip my lucky penny, make everybody.
Oh, you could use a theremin there, man.
In my 20s, cause I'm off throughout your mezzanine. Pasta takes some Benadryl, the way it came so naturally. Not fair, should have been a dream. This, that picture perfect clip, the Renaissance creme de la creme. Looking like the classics, timeless genetics, so fashion J. Gatsby, 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 Gatsby.
Okay. So that was New Gatsby, track number 19. I think it's about Hobokin, like being like the Gatsby, like the successful bachelor, like a wealthy person who's making their way through the gains they made in their 20s there. You've got the start of the track where they're assessing, oh, is that him? How is this? What is this? What have they got? What are they wearing, etc. You know, then we kind of get more kind of context for them and the sort of progress they made there. And I feel like in a style of music where a lot of it can be about sort of like we're at our abilities, capacities, sort of like describing and proving ourselves to people as well as showing what we've done. It makes total sense, you know. That kind of swagger, I think, is important. And it comes in a way which isn't overzealous. I feel like the actual use of the people in the background at the party, kind of the way that is in the background a lot of the time, as long as like got like the drinks clinking and stuff like that, you can kind of imagine people at a party as the Great Gatsby or the New Gatsby walks through. And I think that's just smart atmosphere, like creating a world within a piece there that people can follow along with. These are fundamentals that need to be adhered to in order to go beyond a really good track. Because if you remove that stuff here, it'll be musically competent, but it might not necessarily be as memorable. So I think that the design there, sound design, is really, really neat. I think as well, structurally, simply having that part at the beginning to kind of have him like introduce himself as he walks into the room and then kind of like speak his truth is really smart. To have that extra context and flow there, it just further elaborates and makes sense if you would like to watch a movie with this or something like that. And so, yeah, no complaints about it on that end. I just think that with the verse and chorus, as well as a lot of other tracks within this album, we've typically known how to put things together, how to move between, and we've done enough with the studio production and post in order to be able to kind of make that situation work. And I think as a final note, the use of the music box at the start kind of makes it seem like it's like a fantasy scenario, like it's got a kind of lo-fi aesthetic where it's not trying to be too huge, but it's got like a kind of weird kind of graininess that works well alongside the kind of bluesy single coil guitar leads you have in the background there, the 808s and the drums there. There's this kind of misty feel to it. There is a sense of sadness, but also a fire through the guitar tones and the choice of leads they have there. A minor oriented sort of like main motif. And when we have like the whistle sound of She's the Movie, etc., to have like the strings come in and be like, oh, this is a play, you know, like, oh, what are we doing? What's going to happen next? The drama. We're using instruments that also invoke that sense of kind of like tension there. It's just smart. Like, again, I feel like you could break a lot of these tracks down and spend a lot more time talking about them, which I appreciate. But just to be able to sort of like switch the feel of the motif, like the main sort of backing behind it, to kind of like go away from maybe a predictable chord progression and bass line to kind of switch it entirely for the person that we're speaking about, gives them their own sort of like sub theme. And I just think that's really sensible. Well done. Got track number 20. We're going down. Are you using the theremin again as per New Gatsby or something else?
What's real? Take a step back just to see how I feel. Down, but everyone knows until it goes left field. Now we all climb the mountain, rushing to go uphill. But right back out, cause gravity's taking us down, down, down. Run to the end, no one is getting out, 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 out. Left foot dead in the dark, I've had my doubts, 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 doubts. And that dear material can't be found, found. Oh, now we're going down, down.
Interesting use of 16th with that drum groove.
Right at the end, no one is getting out, 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 out. Left foot dead, it's dark, I've had my doubts, 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 doubts. And that dear material can't be found, oh,
The glitchy, choppy textures are a fun production idea.
Something wicked's happening. Please, please save me. Think I'm going crazy. It's so foul. The feel is going down, 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 down. Run to the end, no one is getting.
The kind of screaming there that we had for a moment was quite intense. I don't think I've spoken about it yet, but there are these like lady vocals in the background which infer an extra bit of nuance to it.
Left for dead in the dark. I've had my doubts, 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 doubts. And that dear material can't be found, found. Oh, now we're going down, 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 down. Right at the end, no one is getting out, 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 out. Left for dead is dark. I've had my doubts, 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 doubts. And that dear material can't be found. Oh, I feel as you're creeping in, chills under the skin. The world just feels so dense. We're breaking down. The resonance within myself, staggering the way you feel it now. I can tell that we were made to drown. Very deep, I feel us going.
Oh, falsettos again. Cool, cool, cool. We're Going Down by Hobokin. So we're going down, track number 20. There's notes of running away from things, and we're breaking down and we're going down. And you get the impression this is maybe more about, maybe like, it could be like a toxic relationship or something like that, or just trying to sort of like running away from your demons or something like that. I probably need another listen through to sort of like get the feel of that in totality, sort of like the good context. But like outside of that, I just want to sort of like comment that it's interesting to hear from the new Gatsby to this. I'm sort of like piecing together a journey that we're having through this, and I kind of maybe I understand, maybe like the new Gatsby could, yeah. I'm not sure I'll think about that, but there's a lot going on production-wise with this piece. There are little kind of glitchy, choppy bits where we cut the files up. There are other parts where we kind of like process the drums in a way which makes them a lot more aggressive. They will be usually adding a bit of distortion and filtering out the low end and then kind of bringing in the main beat there. And in other parts there we simply have that kind of lower end resonance with the basses there. That's just all pervasive with drums that are nicely sort of like mixed into the piece there with a bit of punch to it. And lots of these kind of interesting like pedal layers and reverse takes in certain components there. And as well as keys, I think, at certain parts. And then at the end, of course, we have the strummed guitar parts, but they're like panned on the sides there with a different rhythm there. This is a kind of more like maybe arguably a more not necessary. Yeah, I'd say it's probably one of the more experimental pieces within this album so far. But just the way that things are presented in terms of the post part there, like the changes in intensity across the frequency spectrum, the way that things are kind of chopped and modulated and pushed in certain parts there, just to continue to retain attention and also to make it sound a bit more sort of like sophisticated, I suppose. Maybe to sort of like add a more kind of glitchy, broken feel to it. It's cool. It's well done. I also think like the lady vocal chops as well as the screaming parts to illustrate just a real sense of horror to it. It is smart there. Sometimes we just let it kind of like hold on that screen there in the abyss, and it's just very kind of like vivid. And you leave there going, yeah, no, I've had that sounds horrible. You get more of a feel of how much this is for Hobokin through that. There's also these kind of really chirpy little lady kind of like almost synthy vocal parts going underneath with chops in various places throughout this album that I think add further harmony to what Hobokin is doing, especially when he goes down in his lower range in that last part there. I thought that was really neat. But just like the way that we explore our vocal range was also allowing the lady vocals to sort of like stick on top or within the ether is just fantastic, and also as more of a kind of a accent or atmospheric effect. But also it's just little things like with the decision to go down our vocal range for that going down part there, going low as we can, within reason, just to basically sort of like push that further and make it very on the nose. In this situation, it's used creatively, so it's not like, it doesn't take away from the actual quality of the sound or the experience with the song. It kind of builds it. And so it's just times like that where you can justify using your range in a way where it's more sort of like symbolic as opposed to functional. But yeah, across this album, it's been nice to hear the different sort of like sung and rapped parts there, and it shows that we're comfortable with both. We got Trinity One, Escape Artist, a reminder that I think at the start I mentioned this was a rendition of a song cover from a group called the Zolas. So let's go.
My alter ego, he's an escape artist. He's only truly happy when he's under arrest. Oh, how he handsome, scheduled to hang to death. He's only truly happy at the precipice. He's like a mirror, he sticks into all ears. A stethoscope to the chest of the vacant years. I can't escape the chair, I'm euthanized with fear that my only talent isn't hanging here. My alter ego, he's an escape artist. He's only truly happy when he's under arrest. Oh, how he handsome, scheduled to hang to death. He's only truly happy at the precipice. But then it's, hey boy, I've got your man, he's right here. Put D in my hands, ice cream and sweets coming in the sheets. He got no excuse to leave. Hey boy, I've got your man, he's right here. Put D in my hands, ice cream and sweets coming in the sheets. You got no excuse to leave.
Little flutters and skitters.
An intertidal cave. I ride a desk chair waiting for a tidal wave. I feel like dancing, but that is miles away. I'm feeling hot and hollow like paper mache. My alter ego, he's in a jailer's cage. He sits and waits for the devil to abet his escape. I'm sorry, pastor, I can't be pasteurized. All the Bibles in the world for a metal file. But then it's, hey boy, I've got your man, he's right here. Put D in my hands, ice cream and sweets coming in the sheets. You got no excuse to leave. Hey boy, I've got your man, he's right here. Put D in my hands, ice cream and sweets coming in the sheets. You got no excuse to leave.
Almost sounds like a kind of a film, a little bit. The wow with the strings or synths there.
At every clock strike, he hears the jailer's keys, and the doubt starts to sprout till he's on his knees. And he remembers, like it's his mother's call, to feel her hand find a grip at the top of the wall. I wanna feel it, I wanna feel the fire of the leftover sun on the roof and tiles. I wanna feel it, I wanna feel the fire of the leftover sun on the roof and tiles. But then it's, hey boy, I've got your man, he's right here. Put D in my hands, ice cream and sweets coming in the sheets. You got no excuse to leave. Hey boy, I've got your man, he's right here. Put D in my hands, ice cream and sweets coming in the sheets. You got no excuse to leave. My alter ego, he's an escape artist. He's only truly happy when he's under arrest. Oh, how he handsome, scheduled to hang to death. He's only truly happy at the precipice. My alter ego, he's an escape artist. He's only truly happy when he's under arrest. How he handsome, scheduled to only truly happy at the precipice. My alter ego.
You got this clock on the side, they're ticking away. As the time passes with an unknown conclusion. So that was Escape Artist, track number 21, a cover of a song from a group called the Zolas. This is Hobokin's interpretation of the track. What do you think the song is about? I think that it's about someone who is dealing with an inner conflict, an inner turmoil, their alter ego, someone who gets them in trouble a lot, that doesn't really live unless they're on the edge there. It's a real sort of sense of, man, I am only feeling alive if I'm in danger, if I'm being arrested. You know, they talk about trying to get a grip on the wall and trying to sort of like get out of it and everything like that, but then they just keep kind of dragged back in. I think that could be like a comparative thing to a lot of different things in life, and I feel like you could, you know, there's a lot of leeway and wiggle room for like personification of that, you know, like people got to relate to that. I feel like it's a smart move. It's just not too on the nose, which I appreciate there. You know, there's a bit of creativity and kind of like, it's just nice that it's not like too literal there. They're telling a story, but you can kind of like infer something else from it. But basically, I just like that it's an interesting sort of like story that's not too literal. You know, you can compare it, but it's not, you know, like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's nice to have that angle. So I think one of the things that works really well is like the use of the clock, the ding, 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 that kind of like clicking on the side there, kind of letting you know, oh, you're running out of time, etc. Or like the moments where we had the kind of cinematic string, kind of like, wow, those kind of parts there, which kind of made it seem a lot more dramatic. You can kind of imagine the person trying to get out of the prison that they're in, etc. It's those elements that aren't necessarily even really musical. They have a rhythm to it and they play notes, but they're not trying to build chord progressions or bass lines. It's more sort of create an atmosphere and ambience within a piece that coexists, you know, alongside and connects to the subject matter. I think that kind of cute little theme at the start almost adds a sense of joy to the predicament that they're in, almost like it's an exciting, happy thing for the person to kind of get involved in that danger there. The main chord progression and bass line and it sort of tells us that things are not necessarily as happy as that. It's a minor leaning, which says, you know, basically that inner conflict is tearing us apart. But like, there's a lot of space and ambience within it. Like, we have a sense of groove and rhythm with some of the drum parts and the bass, and the vocals add a lot to that as well with how percussive certain elements of it are. But we also allow other points to float and kind of simmer there. We have interesting kind of like rises and adjustments of loops of oscillations of certain things there. A lot of work in the post to make it, to elevate and accelerate it. But it's like the pretty layers maybe sort of like soften some of the severity of the subject matter, I think, as well. They're pleasant to listen to, and the intervals are, again, they're satisfying, but they notch on top of the darkness underneath, which almost infers that we're feeling, you know, we've got that kind of inner turmoil there, you know, like that we're trying to get out of, trying to find the light, trying to find the secondhand sun on the rooftops. I think production-wise, I think structural as well, like the production is top notch. You can hear all the different elements really sort of like neatly, things are clear in the mix production wise, etc. But I think that's been something that I've sort of been talking about for a lot of these pieces so far. I think structurally, as a final note, to have the story kind of like continue throughout, to have different extra additional parts of it, to repeat the chorus a few times, but to have different interpretations of the instrumental layers and parts for those bits there. Just makes the most of a 4-minute 49 track. And I don't think there was a point in this song where I was thinking, man, I am uninterested or bored in this. I don't want to listen to this anymore. I just think Hobokin's put their own sort of stake in this piece there, made it their own version, and I appreciate that they kept the lyrics, as I understand it, the same as the original, but like put their own spin on it. You kind of need to do that within your own album. So yeah, nice. We got track 22, Displaced Adjacent.
Cause I lost myself at 17 when I big bad wolfed that winning streak. Never lost that game of selling things. I sold pretty lies on a plasma screen. And you just watched as I set the score. Reach that new height and sing the chorus. Pulls that's rich and hit from poor. Choked but I didn't eat this order. Guessing that was my disorder. Feeding a real shop of horrors. Bleeding truth, need I say more? See more. Not lost, just displaced, adjacent with a fractured mass and no graces. Gave you fake and top placement.
Got a recent?
Guess I got too
I could be wrong.
complacent. Not lost, just displaced, adjacent. I fell into unknown places. Too far gone, I can't save it, so I faked it. You wanna know the real truth of the top floor? Most people interplay their roles to make the top sore. Underneath they hide their wounds and their bad sores, but are quick to put you out just to see your blood pour. There are points forever made to keep the room clean. They'll look you up and down to find all your loose seams. Your cashmere better really be the real thing, cause your wound will get sheared by the wolf's teeth. And they bite, really put you for a fight. Leave you with the black guy, really fighting for your life. They don't care if you weren't bark nor bite. Christ throughout your lifeline, they could care less if you were to die. Like you were weak, you were made from the same cloth. You were pleather, you were just a cheap knockoff. And then you'll get knocked off. Not a second glance as they dust the shelf off. But still make a pass at it. Dealing go around, back at it, like crack addicts. Dimmy guys, gotta hand it to him. What a disguise, guess I had to play the villain. Like I'm Donnie Darko, with no clear reason, put the knife to my throat. They all think it's crazy, but I'm all meant to gold. And I'll tell you once again how I'm playing my role. Because not lost, just displaced, adjacent with the fractured mass and no graces. Gave you fake and top placement. Guess I got too complacent. Not lost, just displaced, adjacent. I fell into unknown places. Too far gone, I can't save it, so I faked it. I'm not lost.
Oh, fun. Fun.
I'm not.
Like, are they sampling this, or is this actual saxophone with the filtering?
Just standing at the edge of heavy waters where my pulse beats way too slow. Drowning in the pits of shallow harbor, losing breath and self-control. I never thought that I would self-destruct. Never thought that I could bleed so much. I never thought that I could die before my mind can even rationalize. Never thought that I could lose to perpetuated lies with no proof to leave me in the murky blue, crying and what have you, staccato playing through, sadly breaking up my tune, so ugly, so construed, broken like my face when you watch from across the room. But I guess it's what I deserve for sneaking eating life's hors d'oeuvres. Dressed in silk from the thrift and pretending it was Diane von Furstenberg. But can you really blame me for playing the game? For spray painting my own silver plate? For showing up first to take my place and sticking around finding hands to shake? I'm not lost. I'm not.
Are we gonna do a fade out?
Lost.
Oh, come on, do a fade out. Oh, that would have been so classy.
Displaced.
Ah, we could have done a fade out there. You could have had like a fade out with just the instruments kind of like going. Oh, we know how a fade out works. It's okay. That's more of a specific sort of structural thing. We haven't had a fade out throughout this entire album. Just with the old school kind of vintage groove of the saxophones with the drums and bass and stuff, and it would have been cool. But like. Displaced Adjacent. So I think Displaced Adjacent, track number 22, was more about initially we find ourselves having a difficult time figuring out where we are. You know, like we might feel lost. But then the second half is almost feeling like, hey, actually, no, we're not lost. We're just in a different place, in a different scene. You know, maybe what we thought we needed to be initially wasn't actually where we wanted to be. Like, we're where we need to be. Or we're in a place where we're kind of peaceful, or we managed to overcome any concerns we had, or have had a realization or an epiphany about just how good things are. You know, because sometimes if you go through a big journey, you end up somewhere else, you stress the entire time, and no, you kind of sit down for a moment, you think, oh, that's okay, things are all right. So I kind of think that's what this track is about. There's just this fantastic kind of like sense of subdued animosity to the first part, with the kind of kicks and basses and synths and the three slight leads there, that alone, boom. And it's like a very kind of like low-key kind of rapping kind of flow there, but there's a bit of menace to it. And we have that kind of, again, epiphany in the halfway point. And we switch into this kind of like lo-fi saxophone part there with us sort of like kind of iterating upon how we've just displaced adjacent, how we've kind of found a new thing. Like, we were acknowledging and still accepting in that second part that we've gone through some stuff and that some bad things have occurred, but also we're kind of going, oh wait, but is this what I deserve? You know, am I responsible for where I am? And I think that's a big part of growing up, is just, again, not that I'm saying that Hobokin is needing to grow up, but my point is that, like, as you get older, you realize, oh, I know I had some things that happened to me, but also I have done some things as well that have got me here, you know, and it's accepting, you know, responsibility for what you've done, whilst also being kind to yourself and accepting the limitations of what others have done to you, and how that is not often your fault, you know, to extent anyways, depending. But I think that split structurally was fantastic. I just wanted to add that extra bit of context on, sort of like lyrically, just so that I didn't seem like I was completely out of the loop. I think that those differences of intensity and approach, the styles there, just mask a growth there, an A and B side, which you haven't necessarily had throughout this piece. And I think that, or this album so far, we might have had it in the previous 15, but I don't think we've had it so far within this new set of 10. So well done. I also just think the saxophone playing was very sort of like pretty and wistful. It was almost like, it could have been a trumpet, to be fair. I'm pretty sure it's a saxophone. No, it's a trumpet. It's a trumpet, not a saxophone. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, no, it's definitely a trumpet. I would listen back to the first part. It was a jazzy trumpet solo-ish kind of like lady thing on there. I'm glad I caught that before I edited. Just the way we start in our upper range and then we kind of like measure around the lower part. We're just a fantastic sort of like sub-lead foil to what Hobokin is doing. It's almost like the band is sort of like consoling us as we work through this stuff. And the use of sixteenths throughout the piece kind of ties them together rhythmically, whilst also a bit more sort of like free flow and airiness to the second half there. It's quite a full composition at first, but as we get into that second layer where it becomes a bit sort of like emotionally nuanced there, yeah, things just, the throats float around. You also got this kind of like guitar chords with extended harmonies on the side as well in that second half. You can tell I really like the second half. It was really pretty. That's the first time in this listening section I've been like, I really like this. This is just an unexpected, interesting thing that's occurred. This is probably my favorite track off of the albums, at least out of the 10 we've done today. Just, yeah, and that sort of like bit of extension in that mid-register there just illustrates, I think, the different things Hobokin's considering there. And it makes me wonder what we're going to do for the next 3 tracks. So I like that turn's occurred. What will we see next? Or what will we hear next? Because we've got the Rebellion with Hobokin and Mia Morena.
I try to stand tall, not to look back, but the past hasn't passed me yet. You tell me to move on and forgive them, but I'm too stubborn and not pleasant. I never wave up the white flags. I never try to take the peaceful truce. Always aim for total destruction. I'm getting got or you're gonna lose. Who gives a damn about the redemption? My fire's gonna rage in these streets. Cause if the crowd's gonna burn me, it won't stop my body from the scorching, screaming sea. The rebellion, fight for the rebellion only. The rebellion, he died for the rebellion.
Everybody said not to trust you. Guess I'm the only one who did. They said I was a fool cause I love you, and I'm the only one who will. I'm crying and I'm screaming out because my heart is broken. You tell me not to scream too loud, but I'm the only one who's hurting. I'm hurting, so broken. Who gives a damn about the redemption? My fire's gonna rage in these streets. 'Cause if the crowd's gonna burn me, it won't stop my body from the
Nice work coming together at this point. Use the reverse takes with this kind of glitch. You get the drums on the side and the vocal chops here sequenced. And the double kicks at the end. Sick. So then the Rebellion, track number 23, is more about both Hobokin and Morena coming together, accepting their responsibilities and sort of like truths in regards to, well, for example, Mia, you know, people saying that she was a fool for loving Hobokin, but just kind of, I suppose, coming together regardless for the connection they have. And it's like an us versus them mentality from what Hobokin is discussing there. How like there's this kind of conflict there where it's one or the other, when in reality there could potentially be sort of like gray areas. And so we talk about like not being able to forgive people and crying and screaming out because our hearts are broken. And I think basically it's about, again, like coming to terms with how we've been hurt and who we've been hurt by, and our connection or relationship to the people that we have around them. And sort of almost like the Rebellion being like more of a acceptance of ourselves and independence. As opposed to simply accepting what others are telling us or buying into our own sort of like fury. Or maybe it's simply just rebelling against what we expect we might need to act like. I'm not sure. But either way, I think it's trying to sort of like summarize a lot of what was discussed within this album. All the different angles. And it'll be interesting to talk about that at the end. What works well here is that you have both Hobokin and Mia's individual perspectives and their angles on it. And, you know, Hobokin has their take first, and then Mia has it second in the second verse, and then they come together at the end. And that's a very sort of like traditional way of approaching collaborations here. They're in different vocal pitches and ranges. You know, Hobokin explores his vocal range in addition to like the falsetto and parts to the side. Morena is a different style of vocalist, very comfortable with legato, like vibratos, etc. Like it's a very different performance, but they're different styles. They both contrast neatly, so therefore they fuse quite neatly. They're distinct, and ultimately there's a whole lot of flavor to both. And I just think it's really satisfying to listen to them sort of speak their truth and sort of come together at the end. And also like the sequencing of Mia's vocals at that end part there, ba, just rhythmically was very satisfying in the way it's filled the stereo field as, you know, the frequency spectrum, should I say. I think there was just a satisfying sort of like tone to the synth bass sequencer that we had around the 27-second mark there. We had like an airy kind of feel with some sort of like starry lead synths there, as well as the pads and the guitar, the arpeggiated guitar parts, you know, with the seventh chords and maybe some extendeds, but also when the bass came in, it added a sense of flow and groove that was just kind of pulsed and moved us forward there. And not only did it sound cool, not only did it work well with the existing harmonies within chord progressions, but when it just had a nice sort of sub-bass resonance so that it was immediate contrast when it was there versus when it wasn't. I also want to sort of like give a shout out to a few of the certain sort of sound design decisions, not just the kind of glitchy elements at the end where it almost seemed very kind of starry because almost like it could infer a sense of digital relationship, something like that. But also the starry lead synths in the skylight, the way they kind of glisten and glow in the upper end, because it kind of makes it sound like both of these people are working this stuff through at nighttime, which I think a lot of people can relate to, working out those sort of like relationship or interpersonal or like introspective issues, you know, when you go to sleep. And yeah, it was just kind of like presented more of an ambience and an interesting sort of like affecting mood to it that worked well alongside the existing guitar, bass, and drum elements and the other sort of like synths that were present. So ultimately, just another really strong collaboration. We got track number 24, Lock Me Out.
I guess it's true. I've been waiting a long time for you to notice how I've been watching you steadily across the room, haunting
vocal fry there, nice.
Hunting down, barrel shotgun in my hand, live out a martyr. Some lock me down, strain me before I take you out, dragging you into, pull you down a Dante's circle of violence. I'm in crisis. Oh, 'cause it felt so true. Everybody seems to fall in love with you. Such a haunting tune. Tell myself not to get involved with you, but you leaned into. Now you're in my mind and I'm in love with you. But you act so cool when you turn away and tell me that I'm just a fool. Now the cops rush in, take me to the cell. Didn't know you that well. You all prevail. Now I'm gonna let my on your tail. I'll bring you gifts. Curious, curious what it is. And I think it's swell.
You never really thought that I would give you hell.
Lock me out, hiding behind a mask. You're just a monster, so I'm hunting down. Shoot you dead on the spot. No time for comfort. So
I mean, shoot you down, no. What?
lock me down, constrain me before I take you out. I can be the one to pull you down. The seventh layer of Hades, won't you save me? I'll stab and punch and choke you out. I'll tie a brick to help you drown. I'll kiss your cold and purple lips. I'll send you off with that kiss. It's morbid and it's so bizarre. It's poetic, it's pure, it's art. I still love you, can't you tell? Yes, I'll leave you overwhelmed. And I think it's a nice fit for you. What you did to me, I'll do to you. Lock me out. I know that it's not right, but you're a monster. So I'm hunting down, barrel shotgun in my hand, live out a martyr. So lock me down, strain me before I take you out, dragging you into, pull you down a Dante's circle of violence. I'm in crisis. Oh.
Okay, so that was track number 24, Lock Me Out. That story's pretty intense, kind of horrific. Really wanted to hurt this person, really struggling, you know, with the situation they're in post. Like talking about all the kind of gruesome ways, and they say it's morbid, and in the track itself they acknowledge that, but still it's just pretty heavy stuff too, especially near the end of an album like this, especially after the actual track, The Rebellion. And like we did discuss how we told ourselves not to get involved with the person, we ended up doing it anyways, and now we immediately regret it, and now we're just out with a shotgun, you know, we're just out to get the monster. Part of what works here, I think, is the sort of like self-awareness from Hobokin in terms of the lyrics, as well as the way they sort of like sing. They may be aware that if they're too kind of like intense with the way they express themselves, it'll be too kind of like raunch or too kind of like heavy. And they go for a kind of like fluffy kind of feel to the way that the melodies work, and the harmonies are very bright in the chord progressions, or in the chorus section, should I say. We're really trying not to be too consistent with the darkness of the subject matter, with the way we communicate it. There's a great sense of like flow and variation in the different like rhythms of certain parts and everything like that, and ultimately it's really kind of an interesting juxtaposition there. I think that carries alongside the synth layers that we have that pop up. They're very sort of like bright in the stereo field, and it's just kind of surreal because I hear it, and you if you weren't paying attention to the lyrics, you wouldn't know how kind of gruesome it was. And so I've got to show some love to Hobokin for being able to knock that one out of the park, I suppose, to be able to like provide again that sense of contrast that works well with the way that we did the vocals, expressed ourselves there, where we can listen to it almost like we're happy about the idea of doing this to someone. I think also structurally, what's really cool is that we're trying to also make it more of a kind of a traditional single. We got various verse and chorus patterns. We've got a little interlude at the end. We've got like repeated, chorus at the end. It's very kind of like your typical pop single. So I think that when you're going for like darker subject matter or intense stuff, and you're completely committing to the bit, to have that be one of the more poppy tracks on the song. It's just kind of neat. Almost like we're paying homage to maybe the stylings of the person we're sort of writing the song about, whilst also putting our intent forward on full display. So I just think it's actually the way we wrote the track, as well as the vocal style expression there, and the sound of the different instruments within the piece, which were kind of, again, for the final time, contrasts to subject matter. And it's just ultimately that kind of, the way we stuck to the bit was really neat. We got Flowers to Beard, track number 25.
Just didn't know the rules, what comes first. I bought seeds to plant, but the soil was just dirt. And you know I can't stand to cry. And you know I like to take my time. Lavender's in my view, the misty haze that blinds the truth. Mind in such hysteria, like wisteria covering me. And I try to plant the aster with muffled laughter, tongue in cheek. Sing the color violet, beautifully sprouting irises in my iris.
Great reverb tails, man.
I sit alone in grief and quiet. Then I breathe out loud and break the silence. And you know I escape in life, far away as if I'd done it out of spite. Lilacs are in bloom, the solemn phase down to their roots. Heart shattered and broken, just like crocus encasing me. And I try to plant the allium in the valley of broken dreams. Seeing life be so violent, the arthritis is hell to see. When plants die, they regrow in the same old spot. Humans decay and the body's rot. It's been so hard to let go. I remember that morning running in so cold, staring at an empty vase, your hollow face. The flowers dying day, plant these in your name over the bay. Lavender's in my view, the saddest days with peaceful hues. Mind in such hysteria, just wisteria covering me. And I try to plant the aster, it's a disaster, I'm in too deep. Seeing
Great use of call and response.
violet feels so violent, seeing an iris in my.
Okay, cool. So that was Flowers to Beard, the final track for this, deluxe edition. I don't say cool because I think it's cool that he's had to go through this. I say cool because I think that it's a fitting track for the end of the album. I think that this song is about someone who is looking at the plants they've tried to seed and all the things they've tried to grow out of it, all the efforts that they made in order to like become a better human being and everything like that. And they're just kind of coming to terms with the fact that sometimes the plants die. Sometimes you do as much as you can in order to take care of them, and they just don't go through. And I think it's a very kind of like sincere approach with an interesting sort of like metaphor to it that I feel works. It rounds out the rebellion quite nicely, you know. I think the balladesque feel of simply having the keys with Hobokin as the accompanist are smart. I think that having this piece as like a final outro note there, you can kind of imagine him on the keys kind of working through this, kind of accepting with how things have gone with the flowers. And yeah, makes total sense to me. There's a really pleasant glow to the way the keys sound within the mix there. They're kind of ghostly, almost like it's based on the memories that we used to have there. But there's nice low end resonance that kind of removes the need for us to maybe necessarily overcomplicate with too many sort of like lower end components. We do like eventually have some sort of like bass, I think around the halfway mark if I'm not mistaken, but you don't have a lot else going on instrumentally. The primary focus of this piece is Hobokin. I actually think that's another thing that's really good, is that we're not overcomplicating it with like lead layers. I think here you simply have Hobokin sort of summarizing their entire journey through this, and you have occasional call and response with Hobokin on the sides with heavy filtering so they're in like the ether, but ultimately it's simply you hear him, they express, they say the words clearly. And while it's a very kind of like somber 4 minutes 11, it's still nonetheless important. In fact, I think this is one of the few songs on the track where we really are kind of taking away the percussive elements there. I think the lack of drums there, almost like we've completely come to a standstill. We've gotten to a point, despite all the movement made previously, we're kind of accepting our position and we're just kind of having to come to terms and live with that. And I think that's what the lack of drums and the lack of other sort of like rhythmic elements outside of Hobokin is trying to sort of like illustrate. And we might have different bass lines or chord progressions, so like variations to it and little gaps and stuff like that, simply to kind of make it more interesting compositionally, but ultimately it is a conclusion and it feels appropriate. You know, it's been a massive journey we've gone on. I mean, this is a 25-track album with the deluxe edition of Rebellion, but I feel as if it's worth a listen, and we're going to talk about these tracks more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of these 10 tracks off of the extended album, the deluxe edition of Rebellion from Hobokin. Tracks 16 to 25, from Brat Behavior to Flowers to Bed. So my thoughts are going to be on these 10 tracks. If you want to hear my thoughts on the other 15, you can go check out the link in the description. There will be a copy to the review for that first 15 there. Basically, I think that the Rebellion, these 10 tracks are more of a discussion about our own personal development, our interpersonal relationships with others, wondering who's responsible when the world ends for like kind of maintaining it and stuff like that. Maybe our sort of like thoughts of grandeur with the new Gatsby, like trying to sort of like figure out who we are and who we want to be, etc. And honestly, like songs like Displayed Adjacent, where we kind of go from like more of a kind of like intense sort of like downtrodden perspective to simply kind of becoming almost zen after going through things, kind of still accepting that we're partially responsible for that. It's a massive minimization of a lot of the stuff that has been discussed within this album, but I feel like those are a lot of the plot points, and ultimately it's just further everything that comes within this album before it, from who we are sort of like a development or everything else, comes down to simply accepting the flowers don't necessarily survive, and that the seeds that we try to grow don't always necessarily come to fruition. I know there's more to it, but that's a lot of it. So in terms of things that were done well, because these are my overall thoughts on like the actual 10 tracks. There's a little sort of mini conclusions per song if you wanted to hear my thoughts on each individual track. But like my overall thoughts on this is that we continue to have really competent vocal performances from Hobokin. They're very comfortable in the head chest voice. Nice use of like very comfortable in their range. They know how high they can go. They know how low they can go as per we're going down. We have like adjustment, manipulation, digital synthetic manipulation of the vocals with various sort of like takes there, kind of like call and responses and double tracks and sort of like modulated sort of like tune vocals occasionally just for effect. But we have like rapping, and we're very comfortable with our flow there and varying things. And there's other sort of like more ambient sort of like sound design kind of sequence vocals and stuff that not only go for Hobokin, but also for their work with Moolaun as well as Øverdrive and Morena, respecting their own sort of like various sort of like styles of vocals. We managed to simultaneously really put ourselves forward in the best possible light, whilst also allowing room for them within the chemistry and composition. And it's just very satisfying ultimately. I think every single song within the first 15 was Hobokin by themselves, if I'm not mistaken. So it's great to hear them working with other people and kind of bring things forward and sort of like showing that we not only can play nicely by ourselves, we play nicely with others as well. I think secondly, it's just a wide variety of different instruments within these pieces and how we typically were able to use them for the correct effect. We had a wide variety of different like guitar takes, bass, drums, synths, keys, strings, trumpet or horns, as well as some sort of like foliage elements, some sort of cinematic elements, like with the sound like wow kind of synths and little bells, and we had like reverse takes of things, and we also had bits of foley like with people like lady vocals in the background, like kind of either being sort of like vocal chops as instruments, or we had like the sounds of screaming and everything like that, and little kind of glitchy effects. And we'd also do interesting things post-production wise with the drum parts and guitar parts, but also to not oversimplify was also not complicating it. It's a piece where Hobokin typically understood, as per songs like Displaced Adjacent, we're going to really sort of like lo-fi jazzy hip-hop feel, though really wonderful transitions to create these atmospheres or aesthetics that suit what we're discussing there. We're very comfortable whether it's major or minors or like extensions within the harmonies there. We're very even so comfortable with some sort of like blues pentatonic bits such as When the World Ends, you know, and whether it's the actual acoustic guitars, bass or drums there, or we're using full-on sort of like really kind of just a piano ballad there with Flowers to Bed, or we've got some sort of like trap hip-hop elements for like the 808s, bass drums and sort of resynths and elements, as well as the kind of classier elements such as New Gatsby with the sound of even like bottle clinks and stuff like that, adding further feel to it, and like the use of foley with the cash machine with like Monopoly. They're just very sensible choices there. Very sensible choices. Combine that with the range of expression from Hobokin, as well as how they harmonize with the various elements within the tracks, as well as give them space when they need to, and you've got yourself some really cool songs and some really well thought out compositions that are performed really neatly. And then it's just the studio production, which continues to remain proficient throughout. Very comfortable, you know, the vocal recordings, guitar, bass, drums, all the instruments I mentioned earlier. There was never a song where I was like, why has this been done the way it is? Occasionally the vocals sounded a little bit quiet and stereo feel, but that's simply because I feel like if there's just a lot of width to the way things are presented there. We had a lot of stuff surrounding us in the headphones on the left, right sides. There were no weird resonant frequencies in the frequency spectrum there. It was a wonderful dynamic range, phenomenal use of reverb tails and delays and elements there to make things stand out, or to kind of make them a bit more sort of like, just to sort of make it a bit more sort of like transcendent, I suppose. It's one thing again to have the straight sounds of things or to sort of modulate and then present, but to like filter or add further, you know, like distortion to like a drum kit, or to like chop up certain components there to make it seem a bit more kind of glitchy to suit the story or what the kind of world we're creating, that's just really stellar. And ultimately I just think, you know, nice and low with that pumping was the dynamic range and adequate gluing compression. You have a commercial grade album there that I think showcases the best elements of what Hobokin is capable, as well as the people that he works with. And I feel like there's no real weak tracks within this. I think personally Displaced Adjacent was my favorite across it. I love the A-B side of that structurally. I haven't really spoken about the structure of the tracks within this, but they have different structures and are therefore far more appealing to me, because I like there to be sort of like diversity and range within a piece in terms of how things are put forward. Ultimately each track has its own identity and personality, but they do work well together, even if I don't necessarily understand how they directly flow from one or another, and that's totally fine. I don't think there's anything I personally like. I would have liked a fade out for Displaced Adjacent, just because you had those kind of like more kind of like old school textures, and it could have been really cool to have had that kind of like effect on the end there, just to kind of pay homage to those stylings earlier. But it's cool. It's alright. Aside from that, that's just a for a little thing. It just shows transparency as a reviewer, I suppose. For that to be the only thing across an entire listen through is pretty good. So thank you for watching my review of these tracks, 16 to 25 off of the Rebellion Deluxe album from Hobokin. Hopefully you enjoyed it, or at least the music. If you did, please do go show them some love via their various social medias and a Spotify page, and stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SB Reacts. Spiderhands out.